All right, welcome everyone to our Lean Awareness webinar. Today we're going to be talking with James Fussell, our CEO, and myself about Lean Awareness and going over some of these objectives of an overview of Lean thinking, the Lean
And just to
culture,
let
the
you
two
know,
pillars,
this is Michelle Reeves.
Sorry, I need to introduce myself. Michelle Reeves, I'm the Director of Membership for Lean Jax. And we're going to be going over these objectives here, 5 Lean principles, Lean operating system, and our playbook, Lean transformation steps for you to be able to implement this in your organization. And some of our Lean Jax 2024 services that we have coming this year. Today's January 12th. And we're kicking off the new year of 2024 with our Lean Awareness webinar. So let's, without further ado, let's get started.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Michelle, I believe, is in Green Cove Springs, right? Live from Green Cove. I'm in San Marco in the Jacksonville area. So that's kind of what we spread out pretty much with Lean Jax, to whereas we have several counties that can get involved in this. And we'll talk more about that as we go along. But I'm going to let, without further ado, let's just get going, right?
All right.
Okay, so Michelle, you want to talk about this?
Yeah. So as a member, if you join Lean Jax and are interested in that, we'll go through a little more detail at the end, but we have Lean training and certifications, rapid improvement events, Lean leader events. Those are where we can go out and see what other Lean practitioners were doing and how they implemented that into their businesses and organizations. We also have member collaboration. So we've helped achieve dramatic sustained improvement throughout different businesses and different member organizations throughout the Northeast Florida area. And we help fuel the adoption of Lean into those organizations. So.
And I'm going to take this one. As we get started, we're going to give some background on Lean thinking. So traditional cultures, where a lot of people work, there's some recurring themes that I've seen throughout my career and people have expressed to me, and that you're seeing it time and time again with organizations that don't have that Lean mindset or may not have discovered it yet. So what you'll see is it's unclear. Leadership might have a strategy, they might have this plan, but everybody that works in an organization might not be getting that information. They don't know what the purpose, they might know what the purpose or mission of the organization is, but they don't know how they're a part of it or what they do going into the future is going to help realize these goals from the organization. And so you'll see, like, when you ask like the purpose of what people are doing, a lot of times they'll be like, I do what I'm told, right? It's unclear and it changes all the time, and we're going to do this. Also, what you'll see in a traditional organization, and when I say traditional, this is most places, you'll get complexity. It's very confusing. Priorities are changing. Work is complicated. Stuff might not be standardized, and people are reinventing things, on the fly. So it leads to a lot of frustration among a lot of the workers in an organization when you have something complex. This got blocked off just a little bit, but this is traditional leadership, is command and control. As you see in the picture on the far right of the screen, you have this pyramid where the leader's on the top, and they're just telling everybody else what to do. That's a traditional leadership kind of command and control, where customers might be the least important, or you might switch it with the employees and customers about who who the leader is actually working for, who they're serving. Okay. And we're going to talk a little bit more of that when I get into the Lean culture. Another thing that we'll see in most places is the 8 wastes. We'll talk a little bit about this today, but this is something to whereas for Lean Jax members, we have a 3-hour training to get people started on identifying and eliminating waste, the things that are getting in the way of us having smooth processes and having days where by the end of the day, you're like, you know what? I had a good day. Not one that's just a bunch of frustration. And as you see by this cute little guy we have under here is firefighting. What do most people spend all their days doing? what we're seeing, firefighting, they're putting out fires. Everything's a crisis. Let's put it out. And you're spending it all day long. And to me, exhausting. It's an exhausting way to work. So like in most organizations, you have these wastes and then nothing's really done about them. You're not tracking them, or even if you are, you're doing workarounds. You're just trying to get stuff done rather than solving the problems at the root cause, which we'll talk about as a part of the lean culture with A3 problem solving and scientific thinking. Moving on, you'll see this blame. You see a lot of blame in organizations, people throwing each other under the bus or calling different departments like them, and then we're us, and then they're them, and they're the bad guy, right? To whereas it's not me, there's not maybe the accountability, but also most traditional leadership has been blaming people for not getting it done, right? And then what we always talk about, if you put good people in a bad process, you're not going to get good results, right? And so what do? You fire them. We're going to hire smarter people. You put them in a bad process. What happens? You're not going to get the results, or they're not going to sustain. It's not the people in most scenarios. It is not the people. They're not set up for success from leadership, or they don't have the ability to create their own work, standard work and processes, and find ways to make it better. So that's a real key factor. You'll see a recurring theme with lean. And then finally, change management. As you'll see, like you got this, let's change. No, we're going to maintain it. Everything's fine. It's all good. No, we're not going to change it. A lot of this is because you have cultures where coming up with improvement ideas is frowned upon. It's just like, just do your job. We're doing this. And, just deal with it. Right. So let me move this out of, oops. So I love this quote by a pioneer in computer science, Grace Hopper. She's got a lot of gems if anyone's interested, and of just one of the best leaders probably in the second half of the 20th century. So the most dangerous phrase in the language is, we've always done it this way. And I'll just want to kind of discuss this for a second, Michelle. Would you say this is something that we hear a lot?
On a regular basis, yeah. In our trainings and different events that we have with our members, and even just people we talk to, this is a common phrase, universal, no matter what industry you're in.
I really think I was on a streak. It might have been 20 companies in a row where I was talking to people and I asked, okay, so why is it done this particular way? We've always done it this way. Or they're venting on that's how others in their organizations act. To whereas, like we're going to talk about some simple methods, and we'll talk about our lean starter pack that's available for all our members about problem solving, like the 5 whys, which we'll talk a little bit about just quickly to get to the root cause of the problem. A lot of times it's just like, why is it done this way? Well, we've always done it this way is the first answer. And then, okay, we're going to have to figure something out, because it may not even have been a good idea at the time. And a place might be 20 years in to doing it the same way. There's time and time again, there's stories about that. So like when we talk about the lean culture, it's kind of the Henry Ford, and Thomas Edison kind of belief. There's always a better way to do stuff. Let's just find it. Okay. So lean thinking, just a simplified version of this. I'm not going to get as much into the Toyota production system, which are the origins of this. We offer that in our Intro to Lean Thinking and our practitioner certification courses. But I just want to say it's enterprise-wide strategy that focuses on delivering ever more value as defined by the customer. And we're going to talk about the importance of that in a minute. Through continuous improvement of systems and processes to eliminate waste. By engaging people at all levels of the organization every day to improve their work and their work experience, which that's also important. You got to allow the employees to have a great work experience for the benefit of the customer. And I love this pick. You got to take your medicine. And then warning, it contains common sense. It's one thing you'll see with lean thinking, Michelle. Michelle and I talk about this a lot. It's common sense, but as Mark Twain said, and probably several others, Common sense is uncommon, unfortunately. We get in our own ways. Michelle and I are guilty of this as well. That's why continuous improvements and lean thinking is a never-ending journey. You're going to make mistakes, you're going to learn, but we experiment as we go and we try to create better ways to work. Okay. So what we're trying to do with lean thinking is get to this level of, there's different terms for this. A popular one right now in business is operational excellence. This is something that whereas whatever organization we're in has almost an unfair competitive advantage against others because their cultures are so robust and thriving. And realize operational excellence is also something you'll get there, and then you want to raise the bar, continuously raise the bar. But this is something to where you want to get to where there's not a lot of waste in processes. You have everyone engaged in making improvements to their work, and you're continuously getting better every day.
So lean thinking is supported by two pillars, continuous improvement while showing respect for people. I emphasize that because that is a key. And as an organization with an active learning culture and an engaged workforce. So that's how these two kind of play out together. So it's everyone, everywhere, every day that workers are committed to providing exceptional customer service and value, and by eliminating the waste, working collaboratively together to solve problems, and being creative and seeking and deploying new and improved ways of working. This is a culture that provides people at all levels with the ability to learn and grow and actively contribute to the organization's purpose and the mission. When we're looking at this quote, I love this one. It's a continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. And as a recovering perfectionist, I can definitely identify with this statement. That's probably why I like lean so much. But continuous improvement is about incremental changes. So small changes in a process over time, because we're not going to ever achieve perfection. We just need to know that. But we can pursue excellence. And I think that's a great way of looking at the striving for perfection piece of lean. It's really about excellence. Wouldn't you agree, James?
Absolutely. And we're going to talk about this with the 5 lean principles as we get into that, where one of them is strive or pursue perfection. And to realize like this, it's not about being a perfectionist. We're going to talk about how that's a level we're never going to reach, but we want to have a healthy dissatisfaction is a term I like to use about keep getting better, to realize that's why we'll talk about the lean journey. It never ends, but we celebrate as we go travel this journey, but realize we are never satisfied. We will keep wanting to get better, but we're going to have some great successes and some excellence along the way.
So talking about respect for people, this is a great quote that I love. We need to stop just pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. That's by Desmond Tutu. And this is a great quote. It gets a lot of comments and a lot of interaction when we put this out there. But really, respect for people, it starts with those small actions, those incremental changes. But it starts with encouraging open communication with people, with your employees. The cross-training employees. So when someone's out, someone else can be able to fill in and this work doesn't stop. Input and ownership from the employees into processes and ideas. Learning by doing. Lean is famous for learning by doing because that's the best way to learn. And our trainings also encompass learning by doing. And like James said earlier, blaming the process, not the person. That's key for respect for people. Recognizing and rewarding contributions that they make to the organization. Those are all very important aspects of the respect for people pillar. Really, because psychological safety is the key to successful lean implementation. This begins with the leadership, though. Leaders of the organizations, they really serve as support for the employees, that servant leadership piece. So they can provide the customer with what they want and when they want it and in the quantity that they want it.
Absolutely. And then one thing we'll talk about too is like Michelle and I talked about before, if a leader shows respect and the people feel respected, it's amazing the things that they're going to do, right? Because they'll get their head and their heart in an equal measure to try to make improvements and realize that they're respected. Because, if we talk about different like hierarchies of needs, like Maslow and that, like respect is always really, really high on that. And lean doesn't work. Continuous improvement doesn't work if it's not done with respect for people.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to take this one and kind of talk about some of the differences between a traditional culture and what we call a lean culture. You'll see the term here on the far left, true north. That's really the purpose and the vision of an organization. And true north is something that leadership comes up with a lot of times with a heavy involvement in the people. And we use a term in strategy deployment called catchball, where they're throwing it back and forth ideas and realizing a true north culture is somewhere where the leaders realize what their mission is to set up the value delivering employees that are delivering value to the customer to be able to set them up for success. Okay, so the true north is something to where it's non-negotiable. We come up with these ideas of where the organization wants to go in the future, and then you come up with the plan of how to get there. Okay. Lean, another difference between lean and traditional places is systems thinking. You have it overall throughout the organization to whereas you have all these interconnected systems. In a traditional organization, you'll have processes or departments to whereas they're kind of in a silo. It's all just working on that. They might also get incentives for certain actions that may have a detrimental effect to others in the organization. So what we do at Lean, we're going to talk about when we get to the operating system or playbook, value stream mapping, what that is and how that Lean organizations, these systems have all these interconnected value streams that go horizontally or vertically, sorry, I'm having trouble talking, through an organization, okay? And then they go cut through several departments, all right? So next, servant leadership. As you see, we have that. What is the leader's role? It's to support and develop the people so they can provide exceptional value reliably to customers. Okay. So this flips it over to where it's kind of a leadership without prestige, as we're calling it. The leader helps come up with strategies that are going to support the people that provide the value. And a lot of organizations, this would mean the frontline workers, the ones who are building the product, the ones who are, whether it's in a service, talking to the customers. It could be anything like that. But how do you get leaders on board to support these employees? And we'll talk about in future trainings and other materials we have the importance of direct observation and respect for leaders. They shouldn't just be in a conference room having demands. Go see what the actual condition is and ask people for their input, and then try to remove barriers for the people, because that is the role of a leader in a lean organization. What we're also doing is eliminating waste. Michelle's going to talk about mistake proofing as part of our lean operating system. But really, as we're getting in the basics of this, if you get in your organization, if you get as many people able to identify the 8 types of waste and then come up with proactive ideas and then surfacing problems, on the front end. So you're preventing problems from happening. You're getting rid of it. You're going to have less firefighting during your day. And when you ask, how do we get people able to do this? It's learn by doing. Get there, roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty, go to where the work is done, show respect to the people doing the work, but ask intelligent questions, and then get them involved in doing time studies and some fishbone diagrams and root cause analysis. And Michelle will talk about the Bright Ideas system and employee innovation, all those things, and you're going to get so much return on investment if you choose to go on this lean journey. And then finally, continuous improvement and operational excellence go together. I didn't have this in the slide, but most traditional organizations have this short-term thinking. You got to get results. I don't care how you get the results, just get them, and we need to get them this quarter. Whereas in lean, it's different. Long-term philosophy, to where short-term wins are important, but they can't get in the way of our true north of where we're trying to go, and realize sometimes you're gonna have to, expose some waste and some problems before and create stability in your processes, because most places do not have stability, which is a reliable process that things are going to work when you need them to work at all times. And that's the thing, to where is what we do with lean is a balance of, you have this, yes, we get short-term wins, but we'll talk also about strategy deployment, part of the operating system, to come up with ways, how can we balance the two to make sure that we are reaching our goals. Okay. So results of lean thinking, it can be all over the place. And people ask me, sometimes it's how dedicated people are to actually doing this, whether it's just in a department or if you're doing it all the way through. But just with lean, what we're trying to do is improve quality, cost, delivery, safety, and morale. You'll see these are the 5 keys. And then all of our metrics should be something aligned with this. And really, when we do strategy deployment and we have key result areas, it's always going to be some combination of these 5, or kind of adapted to different ways. Because a lot of traditional organizations have just this cost-cutting idea. Even some companies that do lean, yes, it's important to cut costs. But if you want to get an organization, everybody to buy into that, that's not always everyone's currency. You have to help them make their work better, ensure they're safe, get rid of frustration, make sure we're doing quality right the first time, and that the customer is getting the value that they deserve every time. Okay. So if we work on these, what we'll see is customer value is going to be through the roof. You're going to really, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, about what that means. Culture, the organization, you're going to have problem solvers everywhere, and people are going to be innovating. And what does that lead to? You're going to be able to grow the business. You're going to be able to, continue, accelerate growth, and you'll get the results. I promise you'll get the results. I know some people are like, with lean, will we get results? Yes, if you follow some just simple steps, you're going to get results. And I will say, a lot of places, it's hard to get people to do simple steps like this. Towards lean is not complex. A lot of lean people you'll see out there make it too complex. This should be simple. It's not easy, but it should be a simple path that every organization, no matter what business you're in, can use. Okay. So Michelle and I kind of talked a few days ago. She said it might be good to just share some companies that have had great success with this. Okay. And this is not an exhaustive list. These are just some places that are known for their lean implementations. You'll see Toyota on the far left. Ever since the 1950s, they've been at this, and they're kind of like the godfather of lean. Okay. And then you'll see General Electric next to that. That's an organization that's really on fire with this right now. Their CEO, Larry Culp, hosted a lean mindset event on LinkedIn that I think everybody that's interested in this should take a look. And it interviewed people that aren't even involved in lean, but have that lean mindset of continuous improvement. I mean, it kicked off with Peyton Manning, and you had Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think I got his name correctly. And then people in all different industries that have this mindset, and then how you can apply those to your companies. Again, I'll let you kind of go through this, but just realize it's all sorts of industries, and this is not be all end all list right here. I just wanted to give some context that how lean is applied very effectively in healthcare, in manufacturing, in financial services, in government. Pretty much every industry has had a lot of success doing this if they do things the right way. Okay. And I'm going to go quick into this so we can get into the operating system. But really, so we have the 2 pillars: continuous improvement while showing respect for people. You saw the definition of lean, how really we're trying to eliminate waste through continuous improvement and to keep getting better every day. So the lean movement in North America really took off when The Machine That Changed the World by these same authors, James Womack and Daniel Jones, showed what Toyota and some other Japanese firms and different businesses were doing and how they were applying what they called lean production. And, I have the definition here from the book before we get into principles, that their usage of lean thinking is lean because it provides a way to do more and more with less human effort, less equipment, less time, less space, and less frustration, while coming closer to identifying and delivering what exactly the customer wants. And so they came up with 5 principles that I will say, I love the term principle because it's universally understood and something that is going to be forever. These are never going to change, these lean principles. You might add additional principles to different things, but these are 5. If I want to get started with lean, whether in my area or in my organization, this is what you do. So I'm going to get into these, but first, the customer defines value. Another thing, Michelle, she's still with us. Let me ask the question. In most organizations, who defines value?
Typically, it's the leaders or somebody else, not the customer.
You know what? From my experience, a lot of people are afraid of the customer. They don't
Yeah.
want to get the feedback of what the customer actually thinks. That's not going to work in a lean environment. And we're going to talk about what value actually means. But that's the thing. Everything around lean can be delivering exceptional value to the customers, because what happens if we deliver exceptional value to the customers consistently? Guarantee you no bad things are going to happen. You're really going to be able to drive, improve the business and build world-class cultures. Okay. The next step in this is to identify and map what we call the value streams. Okay. So a value stream is all the tasks, steps, activities required to take the customer's order, produce the product or service, and deliver it to the customer. And this cuts through many different support functions and production functions, but this is a key. So what we want to do in order to provide the customer value, we have to identify all the value streams in our organization. We might start with a high level end-to-end one as we get started on our lean journey. And then we need to map these value streams, which will show that in our operating system, how we go about doing that, okay? Why we do this is because we're trying to deliver customer value, but here we're trying to identify all the waste in the process and all the problems, because really what we're trying to do, and you could say, I'm gonna move this over just quick, the 2 core goals of lean, really, what you're doing or the ways you're going to do this is you want to create a smooth flow in your value streams and in all your processes to where it's continuously providing value. You're moving whatever you're working on forward without all this rework and backtracks and loop backs and all that thing. You're creating flow. And it's very hard. You might hear the term one piece flow, like one move it. That might not be feasible all the time. So we utilize a thing that we call pull in lean. That means we're not moving work. Like if we're upstream, we call it on a value stream. You're the beginning of the process and you're getting work done. You're not passing that work down to downstream people, like the next department, until they're ready for it. And with pull, we set up visual signals to where it could be as simple as something as just raising your hand or color coding, and then we move work. We're not going to get as much into the 8 wastes during this webinar, but just to say, the most dangerous waste is this overproduction. We're producing too much that the customer is not willing to pay for, or we're doing it too fast before the next in line user or person in the process is ready to start work with that. And that's something through our training and our different classes we go really in depth into. And then finally, as Michelle was talking about with that Mark Twain quote with continuous improvement, to me, I love it, like Womack and Jones, brilliant guys, and this is just like awesome. But the one thing when I might be wrong when I said I wouldn't change anything, it's a strive for perfection, just because that kind of leads to that perfectionist mentality or perception when people hear it. And so, but as Mark Twain said, continuous improvement's better than delayed perfection. Are we ever gonna get to perfection? No. Michelle and I have talked about this before, about it's like the kids in the car, right? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And then the parents like, No, and we're never going to get there because we're striving for excellence and it's going to be a journey, but we're going to celebrate along the way, okay? Because then we're going to recognize employees for great work they're doing, but just realize if you can just imagine if you have employees throughout your organization knowing that we're never going to get there, that we can celebrate success, but we're going to keep trying to raise that bar and they're empowered to do so. It's pretty powerful, okay? And I'm just going to go quick in this. We offer, in our other trainings about what this means and the importance of customer value. But really, and Michelle's going to talk a bit about this in mistake proofing with the quality. You got to move the product or service forward. The customer must be willing to pay for it. Got to be done the first time. Does the customer pay if you make mistakes? No. Sometimes you are going to make mistakes, and that's okay. But you want to make sure that it's not harming the customer or you're not sending something to the customer and it's wrong and you're having to do it again. That is not great for companies' reputations, okay? And then you have this value added task. Then you have the non-value added, but they're required. You have to do it to run your business, okay? Could be law, regulations, HR. And I'm not saying that these are not valuable parts of an organization, right? They're very valuable. But from the end line, the customer at the end of the line, they're not paying for us having electricity in our facilities or spending time on payroll for our employees. So we can't eliminate these actions, but what can we do? We can find ways to make them better and streamline them. And then finally is waste. That's everything else. And we will talk about this in our 8 waste training. Will be coming up in the next couple of months and some stuff that we'll share. But in most organizations, it's crazy how much waste there is. So a typical organization, value-added work is usually under 20%. Then you might have 30% that's non-value added but required. Usually, at the very least, 50% when you actually take a look at it of actions people are spending on their day are not something that the customer would be willing to pay for, and they're not required. They're just stuff that we may always be doing or we're getting in our own way, okay? So what's waste? See, money down the drain, frustration. We don't have time today to get into all of it, but really just this is what gets people fired up with lean when they actually get the eyes to see this waste. It's anything that adds time and cost without adding value to the customer, okay? All right. So those are the 5 principles, and flow and pull are what you're trying to do to make sure that the customer is receiving this exceptional value, okay? So we have this operating system. This is something I created based off all of my benchmarking and consulting with different organizations. I'm going to go through most of these, quickly and realize we have resources and training and different things on all of these. So this is just a high level overview because why we have this operating system or playbook, as we call it, is there's certain things that you can do to make sure you're following these 5 principles and you're following the lean culture of continuous improvement with respect for people. It's really what this is, just like a way to get these things done. So I'm going to talk about some of these, and then Michelle will jump in on the second half, okay? So strategy deployment. I talked about most organizations have this kind of lack of clarity about their strategy, or strategy might be a one-time thing. Oh, we do it every 3 years, right? We have this strategy. And then what happens from the strategy? Is it checked? Do people do anything with it? Not really. So with strategy deployment being this first step, with lean, with this lean operating system, shows that we're serious about our long-term future, but also let's get some things done and have it balanced and get it aligned through the organization. So a definition of strategy deployment is this is an enterprise-wide method for aligning all of your continuous improvement and lean objectives with what the company really wants to get done, their vision, their purpose, their key metrics, to make sure that improvement is aligned with all of that. So what this does is it enables organizations to visualize, prioritize, select, and also deselect certain things to manage their improvement efforts. You start at the top of the organization, then you cascade these improvements through all levels of the organization. So with this, we start with a strategy deployment board at the top that you get a lot of leaders involved in, and then they're cascading it down, and you're getting the input of people in each areas about what's important and how what they're working on aligns with the company's mission. Okay, so this connects the entire organization. As you see in the image in the middle, you got the purpose and vision, strategic goals, and let's align these systems, behaviors, and actions together to get results. But I mean, a real powerful thing of this, and some of the best organizations that have these boards, it's open for anybody to see. So any employee in the organization, when a system's done well, can come in and see how they contribute to the mission. And to see if it doesn't make sense, they can surface that too, to have a conversation going to see if they need to be working on something else. And it's something where these real robust strategy deployment boards down the line, as you're starting on a lean journey, or if you've already been doing it, you want to cascade this system into daily improvements and a daily visual leadership system that can be checked in any area really in 10 minutes to make sure you're meeting all your goals regarding strategy deployment. Okay. Okay, so value stream mapping. We talked about value streams being an end-to-end process, and how from customer order to delivery is a very common one. And many organizations have many different types of services, many different types of products. And so there's going to be multiple value streams interconnected into our systems. And so this is something that we offer training on, as we'll talk about our lean certification training, how it's a big component of that. And I know some members of ours recently have been asking for some checklists and different things. Won't go into it as much today, but just know we're going to map what we call a current state. What's the current reality? Go to where the work is done with a group of people and respectfully collect data and find out and create a map, draw a map. We use stickies, very powerful, and then you can turn it into an electronic version about where the waste is, what's working well, where pain points are, how long the most important tasks are taking, or as we call them, value stream chunks. And then, see really just an accurate depiction, not perception. Oh, this is what I think, not what I think. What do you know? That's what we want to do with this. And a lot of value stream mapping is going to be a 2-day event, usually is the best, with different departments to get actually a good understanding. And it's a game changer. This in the book, Learning to See, that John Shook and Mike Rother, who are two of the real founders of this lean movement in this country, okay, with their Learning to See book. And that's like, when we do these webinars, you'll hear like different books to recommend. Definitely recommend Learning to See. Came out in 1999, and it explains the process, and for a manufacturing process, but then how you can adapt it to any value stream you have. So what we do, map the current state, then you have your ideal state. This is the blue sky approach. This is brainstorming. This is the striving for perfection. We have a current state. We come up with some key metrics. Where do we want to go? What's the goal? And what we realize, and Michelle, I believe we've worked together on this too. Sometimes we do this ideal state, all the money in the world, like a perfect process. And we've come up, maybe we can do this. We just have never talked about it. So very, very impactful to do that. In a lot of places, even ones that do value stream mapping, skip this. Don't. It doesn't have to be a long process, but brainstorming and getting ideas from all the people involved, it can be huge. And then what we do is we map a future state or a target condition. We create a new value stream map, whereas if we get rid of as much waste with some countermeasures, what's the process going to look like that we're striving for? And then we implement this a lot of times through parts of this playbook we're going through as we're going to go along. Okay.
Yeah, James, I do find, sorry to interrupt, that people do tend to skip that ideal state. And, I've seen when, I'm like, no, we're not skipping that. When we've done it in the past, I've seen a couple times where there's pieces of that ideal state that they figure out they can implement to the future state. And if we hadn't went through the process, we wouldn't have been able to even entertain the idea and figure out how we can make that happen. So it's definitely valuable because it's even if it's some things aren't realistic, you may be able to find ways to get close to that in your future state. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So both of us really encourage everybody doing this, whether it's with us or you're doing it internally or you have outside consultants or however you're doing it, that make sure you're following that step to map the ideal state because it's going to make the future state very impactful. So as you can see in one of the pictures here was a company I worked with, and then another one on the right is a current member, Treese Medical Concepts, current member of LeanJax, and how the end to end, and we got a group of people together. I'm sorry for Paul Powell on the right being the only one in this picture. Everyone else was tired and went home for the day. So you got a photo op with this. I actually work with them turning this into an electronic map really easily to make it. But we gathered, and the company was very happy with that they were able to go through this process. The only other thing I'll say with value stream mapping without getting too much into it is we're going to talk about the A3 method a little later during the operating system. But just know, implement the future state. Like, let's actually do something. Yeah, we have this beautiful map. I've seen people too, like, oh, the handwriting's impeccable. And that's not the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to trigger action and to hold people accountable, to get people excited. Okay. Too many times, Michelle, I believe has seen this too, that we've done these like events where people have done events and then nothing happens. And it's just like, you know what that is, everybody? That's waste. So it needs to be part of the true north. If you're going to agree to value stream map, you're going to get benefits if you implement. You just need to implement something. Okay. And then, you'll see different orders. Sometimes with our training, we'll just get people learning about all the waste, but really it's very beneficial if at least there's been some top level value stream mapping, because we kind of encompass this, like we'll do some 8 waste training during a value stream mapping event, which we offer for all our member organizations under our annual dues. Is what we want to do is we want to eliminate waste is one of the things that the biggest thing really when you map to get to the future state, when you're implementing that, how do we get rid of all the waste? And this is something, we have training on this, and you'll see a lot. You can, even for those who like Google and want to watch videos, there's lots of great stuff about this. It used to be the 7 waste, and it originated from Toyota. And we use downtime as the acronym. You might see Tim Wood is another one. And, however you can remember it, it's okay. But just realize the one in the middle, the N, the non-utilized talent, was something North American companies added in as they were doing this, to realize this is part of respect for people. How a huge waste is we have these capable people and we're not giving them the opportunity to succeed. And that could be through training, or it could be just getting them in certain meetings or allowing them the value stream map. Because Michelle, I'll say, who usually has the best improvement ideas in a company?
The people that do the work. They know what the problems are, and usually they have some ideas on how to fix them. They just need to be empowered to voice those.
Okay, so absolutely. And then with companies, people ask me, how can we accelerate this? It's lean. It's going to be a long time until we see the full fruits of our labor. Target these 8 ways. Get everybody doing this. It's the quickest path to accelerate the journey, and you're getting the right behaviors. That's one thing with an organization. People are doing things. They're being proactive. Unfortunately, and I will say, everybody, I'm guilty of this too. All humans are fairly guilty. Excuse me. We get in our own way, and we're not doing the best daily habits, even in personal lives, or especially in our work, that are just like, if there's certain things that we can do to where our work's going to be better, and then we're going to be contributing to the organization in great ways. Okay. Oh, and I will just say, I always kind of put this in here because I use this logo as, it doesn't take a superhero to identify and eliminate waste in your organization's processes. But if you bring a continuous improvement mindset to work each day, you'll get a significant benefit. Okay. I apologize, everyone. I'm just trying to mix it up a little bit. Okay, I promise I'm going to stop talking in a minute, and it's going to be Michelle's turn to kind of go through this, so you won't have to listen to that. What do we do? Standard work. Okay, this is the next big thing that you're trying to do. What we're doing in organizations is we got to map our value streams because we want stability, and we got to start eliminating waste before we can really stabilize things. And that's something most places don't have stability because they don't have standard work. And until you start, you'll get some improvements, but really until you start standard work and processes, it's very hard to improve. It's the foundation. We got to get to stability. And that's not a negative thing. Companies do great work. I'm not trying to be too negative about that. But as you'll see, I'm hoping also to realize the importance of this standard work that you got to put in. And so what is standard work? So these are worker developed documents. This is not just some department, whether it's engineering or some other area or leadership, that's just typing up these steps and sending them to the workers and like, you're going to do this. It can be done by places like engineering, but it has to be with the direct input of the people. And what standard work really is it's just the best way we know today how to effectively, safely, and timely complete the steps of our key processes. Okay. So as I said, this is the foundation for continuous improvement, innovation, and employee growth. And really why standard work is because with these documents, and they tend to be very simple when we're doing the standard work and to be effective. And it's very visual, which Michelle will talk a little bit about in the visual management section of this. But standard work is something that most people and lots of processes might have some standards, but it's not a universal thing, or it's not communicated. Or it might be, why do you do these standards? Well, we've always done it this way. It's never been changed. Standard work is trying to get this systems thinking, these value streams that are interconnected, to make sure for important tasks that people are doing things the best way we know today. And that so there's not variation, which leads to so much waste and rework and different things. So we want to make sure we have a standard method. This is not about making people robots, So standard work is about getting the input of people to be creative and to continuously change the standard work and get it better when things change. And again, you have to have a streamlined system for things change. Everyone needs to buy into this is how we're going to do it going forward, without just making changes on the fly without the input of people. And so you have to when you create standard work, you create this audit system to where it might just be a few minutes every couple of weeks where you're having eyes on it to see if anything's changed and if people are doing it the right way. And just before I let Michelle jump in, we talk about more of this in our standard work training, but a typical document, and you'll see in our starter pack, a lot of these, we really focus on the time, the steps of a process, value stream, the time it takes to do it, what the customer demand is, how much we should be doing, and then all the necessary resources or materials we need to make sure we're hitting this time with high quality. And that's enough of me for a little bit. Michelle, take it away.
All right, so we are going to talk about a few of my favorite things, and I will spare you me singing the song. But we're going to start off with 6S Workplace Organization. I want to put a little plug in here. I've got also a book that I like that I've read. It's the Everything I Know About Lean I Learned in the First Grade. So some of this is quotes from that and some of the material. So getting into 6S Workplace Organization. It's funny watching on social media some of the debates, whether it's 5S, 6S, who cares? It's workplace organization. So we're going to go through
Don't
some of those
criticize
steps.
us for the 6. Like, we're sorry, but
yeah. We like to include safety, so that's one of them. So some of these are in a different order, but we're talking about safety, sorting. So really, this is a disciplined process where workers can leverage the visual controls to create and maintain an organized, clean, safe, and productive workplace. That's really what this is. And it just goes through the different steps. And there's lots of ways to do this. But it could be sorting, could look like separating and categorizing all the material, information, discarding the unnecessary. So this could be physical material, electronic material. So, it could be your electronic files, your 6S'ing your computer, or it could be a closet or a shop floor. So this applies to everything. And then looking at setting an order. It could be organizing, labeling, color coding the remaining items, just for easy use. Shining is what it sounds like. It's shining and keeping all your areas void of clutter, unwanted material. It's like the president's gonna be coming in and taking a look at your workspace. So let's keep it super clean, and for those visitors that come in. And then once you shine it, you standardize. So we just talked about standardization. So using that standardization that we just talked about, creating those rules to monitor and maintain your workplace and those processes at all times. And sustaining, that's completing regular audits, improvements to ensure the workplace remains organized. So this isn't a one-time deal. This is, how do I keep this going all the time? And then we talked about safety already. That's just ensuring that your spaces work, that's safe, clutter free. It could be, getting wires, put together at your desk so you're not tripping over them. Or it could look like, a shop floor, and making sure you have safety standards, a lot of times like OSHA type stuff in place and all of that. So lots of ways this can work in any industry, really.
Yeah, so this
Three
is
lessons. Go
right.
ahead, James. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to say, like, ask you the question, like, so this is not just for manufacturing front, like you can use this in other places.
Oh, definitely. This I led a few 6S events in my time, and one of them was in a maintenance room where they had all their materials that they use to maintain the building. So we did that in their storage closet. We did it in a supply area, supply unit, and then we've done it on desktops for desktop files. So it's definitely across the board. It works for anything, really. You can even do it at home. In your closet at home or your pantry. So
I do. I
I need to do
actually,
that myself.
ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to show you, but I actually have a visual of this in my closet to remind me as we go into these. So it
Keep you
is like,
accountable.
yeah, absolutely.
But really, there's three lessons on organizing a workplace, and I got this from the book. But only keep material and information that's critical to the operation, whatever that operation is. Whether it's your computer or physical space. Secondly, have a place for everything, and put everything in its place regularly. I quote that at home all the time to my kids, and they love it. Not really. Um, and third, discard all material and information that's not required. Now, I'll say, James, I find when I've done this in the past that that's probably the hardest part, is the sorting for some people, depending on their personality. In fact, we've had before, we actually had to send someone home because they could not handle the sorting phase at all. They were on board with the project, but they just could not let go of their stuff. So they gave them some leave, and we did the 6S project, and we came back, and so that was a hard one for him. But just going through that with people, and realizing that the people part of this, we're back to respect for people, right? Just respecting people, their things, and sometimes their emotional attachment to some other stuff, and all of that. So there's a lot that goes into facilitating the 6S workplace.
Yeah, and I just want to put a quick plug in the date of this recording, because I know some people will be watching this in the weeks going forward, is January 12th. On January 31st, we're going to be doing this workplace organization training. It's a 3-hour training that's open to all our members to be able to send people to these. And this is something, this type of training for our members, we're open to do this at their facilities. That we're going to offer this at least a few times this year. And Michelle and I were going through it the other day, and I think it's a lot of fun. So, I mean, like, whereas I think like people get a lot out of it and be able to get going with something like this. Okay.
Yeah, I agree, James. And I'll say, if you're implementing lean, one of the first things I recommend doing is a 6S project, because it gets people excited, gets immediate results, and it really just gets them on board quickly with all this. So it's a great way to start and kick off sometimes your lean implementation as well. So,
And
but we're
it's
going to get into
amazing.
this visual management next. So.
Okay. Well, let's get into it.
All right, so visual management, we got a couple slides on this, but I'm just going to read some of these steps here. But in visual management, you're using visual tools to figure out, what do we need to do? What is our process? What's our results, and what did we learn? And you can flip to the next slide. I like pictures and examples. So,
I think most
but
people
these are
do.
the couple examples that I've seen of visual management. But really, the question to ask is, if a visitor were to walk into your workplace, could they identify the steps in your work process just by looking around? So I really like this Mixer board user guide. I stole it when I was at a school, and I was like, oh, that's neat. And so I took a picture of it. But it explains visually in just one easy document the process of the work of using a mixer board and what needs to be done and how. And it's very easy to understand. I could walk up to it and probably start working with their mixer board and never have been trained there just by looking at documents. So visual management is really a great tool to use in a lot of the operating system. It's really the ability to tell at a glance what the work is and the status of each work step. That's what this is. The visuals really allow you to see and instantly know when you have a problem or abnormal conditions as well. So, if, for instance, in your glue picture there, you see the little eyes, smiley face. So, if the eyes are disappeared, then it's probably not closed all the way. So you can immediately see that it's an abnormal condition just by visually looking at the glue cap. I thought that was really neat. I saw that somewhere online. I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. So schools are really
Michelle,
good at all this.
let me just ask, why do you think they have this visual management? What was happening before, probably?
Oh, I'm sure they used this to error proof a process of where the kids were probably picking them up and it was squirting out or whatever, or it was drying up the glue. So they had to come up with a way that was easy for the kids to understand and remember. And that's a brilliant way, I thought, to visually communicate to a child, a process and making sure the cap's closed. So it's just simple, and that's how we need to keep visual management is simple. Really, it's a visual method of sharing information, right? Where everyone's made aware of the status of the work and is easily able to spot those problems. And so what's supposed to happen does happen on time and every time. So.
Awesome. Awesome. And yes, like one of the things like you'll see if you do some more of our training and you're meeting with us is to keep it simple. Simple's, really, really effective. And how to have this visual management, most places shouldn't be hidden in a computer unless it's a purely like virtual atmosphere. Too many times I've seen with visual management, like say it could even be a repetitive production process. They just put all the stuff in the spreadsheet and they review at the end of the day. Well, what if there was a problem in the morning?
Yeah.
We just keep going, right? So it's just like
Right.
how to create something. And a lot of times it's just the discipline of like each hour filling them in. And you would say, oh, is that waste? Now it isn't when people are going to take more ownership when they're actually, writing it in the chart. Okay.
So segueing into mistake proofing, they kind of go hand in hand with visual management. But it's really creating a situation where errors are prevented or immediately caught before it's being passed on. That's mistake proofing. So we, as humans, we know that we're going to make mistakes and they're just going to happen because we are human, and that's okay. But when mistakes are just mistakes, but a defect though is when a mistake is handed on to the next process or to the end customer. So that's when that's a defect. How can we catch the mistakes, prevent them on the front end before they're passed down to either the next person, the next department, or the customer? That's really the goal of mistake proofing. And then we can use visual management to help do that. Visual cues. You can see here some of them very simple. And you see them every day when you walk around different places. We just we're so used to them, but those are visual cues that help error proof the processes. So we can detect the potential mistakes, before they occur, and then prevent the actual mistakes from being passed on to the customer. It's really a quality at the source is a good way of putting that. So we're having quality at the source of it. And there's really two types, mistake proofing: prevention and detection. So 3 visual management lessons for mistake proofing is just make your work and the status of the work as visual as possible. Design those simple and inexpensive techniques to error-proof the processes. On that last slide, this one, it's just a piece of tape. It doesn't have to be expensive. It could be very cheap. It could be a laminated piece of paper. Those are ways of mistake proofing. Then catching those mistakes before they turn into customer defects.
Just one thing I would like to add, I wholeheartedly recommend that everything I learned about lean, I learned in the first grade book that Michelle's reading now. When we do these practitioner certification, which I will talk about at the end of the training, I use it as a textbook, but I actually learned for the first time reading that book why school buses are yellow. And the reason found out is it's been proven that yellow is the most distinguishable color to the human eye. And so this was a mistake proofing thing for like other cars when there's young kids, trying to get off the bus, that there's not going to be an accident. Like they're able to see it. It's so, and that makes it, very powerful. So that's a simple thing. I never knew that, but it makes sense when you think about it, right?
Yeah, the schools, I tell you, they really are brilliant at this. Your pickup cards, that you hang in your car, the number matches the kid over in the cafeteria, and then when you pick them up, they verify. It's just lots of things that we take for granted every day that are all mistake proofing techniques. They really are good at that. And take a look around at your school, and if you got kids, see what you can implement in your business and replicate some of this because it's good stuff.
Because are we smarter than a fifth grader?
I
I
don't
know
know.
I'm not a lot of times. Okay.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the Bright Ideas suggestion system, another one of my favorites. This is really a visual management system for employee suggestions, and employee suggestion system really ties into that respect for people pillar, right? Because we're providing workers with a standardized way to capture their process observations and then their improvement recommendations. And we'll talk about in the next couple slides on what that looks like or could look like. And it's really focused heavily on eliminating the 8 wastes and teaching them what that looks like. And then the brainstorming and mistake proofing piece of that. There's lots of ways to implement Bright Ideas suggestion systems or employee suggestion systems, whatever you want to call it. One way that could be just getting those parameters. Where are the the KPIs that we're looking at, and how does our employees, tie into that? Do they have suggestions for that? Having a process for the suggestion system, so it's just not willy-nilly, right? So we really get into a little bit more of this in our trainings of how to implement this. But I've implemented one of these before at an organization, and it was well received. We got a lot of great ideas, and we had a process where they had to be looked at by a certain time by management, and then they had to get back with them. So it's a system, and when the employees know that it works and that it's a psychologically safe environment to put those innovation ideas out there, you're gonna get some very interesting things that maybe you didn't think of because this is the people that do the work. So.
And a recommendation, I know Michelle would agree, is for this is it's not a closed suggestion box where they just put stuff in. I've been in places like it's something 9 years. Oh, it's the first time they open the box. This is an active thing. And the companies that are doing the best, like I've heard this from even some really strong companies. Well, we review employee ideas every month. That's not quick enough. This stuff changes. How can you make it reasonable, but also at the same time get on top of stuff? Because they might come up with a great idea and it could be 30 days of just a disaster but if we would have put that idea in, it would have prevented it. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
All right. A3 problem solving. And I mentioned our lean starter pack that we're offering. This is in there. We use this, I'm going to say DMAIC method. You might see if you're like, oh, I'm a lean Six Sigma green belt or something. You may see Plan, Do, Check, Act, PDCA. But DMAIC is what we use, and mainly because we've interviewed people which one they would prefer, and this is clearer. So what the A3 problem solving is, it's 11 by 17 sheet of paper. That's what an A3 is. So it's not 8.5 by 11 letter size. It's a little bigger, but it's what we do here is on one page. We gather the problem, we get our analysis, we come up with some corrective actions, and we put our action plan or future state improvement plan down on all one page of paper. You might need some more paper and some other documents, but this serves as a summary. It's like showing your math in any kind of improvement. You have the discipline that you're going through all these steps. So this is really A3. I use these all the time. Michelle uses these all the time. And it's something to where is as big of a game changer in the lean movement than anything is to get, so this is like the standard work document. Whereas you solve problems, we run rapid improvement events and summarize, which I'll share in an upcoming slide. You can report on projects. You can coach people as a leader going through this discipline method about, you're defining the problem, you're measuring the current state, you come up with some tangible target conditions. And for anybody that does this, we like SMART, the specific, measurable, attainable, either realistic or relevant. You'll see different forms in it, and time bound. And so when you're doing a target condition, when we do these value stream mapping and rapid improvement events, it's important not just to say we're going to improve speed or we're going to improve quality. We're striving for excellence. What is our goal going to be? And I will tell you from rapid improvement events, which we're going to just about to get into before we wrap up this, introduction on this operating system, is the improvements you're going to get are absolutely unbelievable when you value stream map. Like a lead time end to end, most times just doing one event, you can cut that by 50%. Okay. Another part of the thing, I have standardized questions. I've benchmarked the best people that do this. I've developed these. I continue to change to realize I have this also in 8.5 by 11 to guide people. And the thing that I found, these are the essential steps. And like, wow, this is a lot. It is a lot, and you got to get used to it. But once you go through this, it's going to be second nature, and get this and realize and the key is let's accelerate this to make sure we're making the best decisions going forward.
So I have a question for you, James.
Sure.
Where do they get the name A3 problem solving from? What's an A3?
So 11 by 17 is the international form of paper, or, size of paper. And what they found, and this was, again, like a lot of lean, a Toyota production system, came up with this, like it was doing this, and they shared this. They've been doing this since like the 1960s, I believe. And this was recently in the last like 30 years shared as a real game changer. But it's like they were dealing with something, whereas, okay, right, go study like a leader, go view and give me back a report. And it would be 150 pages long. And Taiichi Ono, who's the architect of the Toyota production system, used to say, get it down to a page and then we'll talk. And so that doesn't mean writing microscopically, with a microscope that you have to only way to see it. It's about, what's important. Just the facts, ma'am. That's Dragnet. That's a famous quote, probably before a lot of people, some before my time. I don't know why I'm referencing it. It's just, it's not what I think, it's what did I go discover, what do we know? And Michelle, I apologize, I'm going to have to go get my computer charger so we don't fall out of this, and this little bit might be edited out. So
yeah, that's okay. I'll keep talking
as we go. Can you talk about rapid improvement events?
Yes, yeah, go ahead, next slide. All right.
Sure.
So rapid improvement events, these usually require a facilitator, and we do have facilitation certification, which I highly recommend if you're going to be leading rapid improvement events. I've been through the course, and it's really good for anything. There's a lot of people involvement with it, but what a rapid improvement event is, usually it's a certain amount of days set aside, and you get value for customers with this faster turnaround times, improved quality in your process, reduced expenses, increased productivity, less rework because you're identifying those wastes in these events, and then you get problem solvers. So this is where the work is. This is where they get a group together of people that do the work on a specific process, and they go through this specific process of the value stream mapping together, identifying those wastes. So you get problem solvers out of this. and momentum, because when they have become part of um, improving a process, then they get ownership over that process, and they get excited about it because they've been able to come up with ideas on how to improve something that usually involves their work. So, what do you about that, James?
Yeah, like Michelle and I have collaborated on a few of these. And I just want to add in there, we have standard work for this. When we do facilitator training, it's about getting people in your organization the capability to facilitate or guide these events using scientific thinking, using the A3. We use the A3, that the questions you had, that's what we're doing when we're doing a rapid improvement event. Okay. And how this originally started, you might know the term Kaizen, like these Kaizen bursts or the different things. It used to be a 5-day. You would have people all day, every day, and then you make a transformative change. What we found, and Michelle, I know Michelle agrees with this. Do people have time to block off 5 days just for improvement when they have the stress of their job every day?
Yeah, I found it very difficult to get a whole week set aside. So usually it ended up being more like 3 days. Yeah,
Three
it's free
days is
work.
the sweet spot. It does take some planning ahead of time and some
Yes.
pre-work, but to get it done in 3 days, because the thing about the rapid improvement event, which a lot of times the value stream mapping we talked about might be like the first day or two of an event. But the real key with RIE or rapid improvement event, it's not just wallpaper. We're doing something while we're together. And so usually you do this probably, yeah, I like to cap these like at 12 people usually on the core on the team. You might talk to some subject matter experts and people you might bring in, but you have only a certain amount of people doing this. And they might be even skeptical at the beginning. Like, what are we? It's amazing when people are working together, what can get done. And a lot of times they make some transformative changes within 3 days of a process that
It's true.
they get really excited. So rapid improvement events and lean, we talk about visual management and some of the different things that are every day. I mean, sometimes, work's busy. We got to try to compress time, get people together to make sure but we have enough focus. We're in a state of flow that the team can actually get something done. So a lot of times people ask, well, what do you do in RIE? Most times it's because standard work needs to be improved upon. However, um, you know, um, mechanism that's in, like, or whatever type of document it is, and then you get that, and then people get really excited. So this is really where, from we're talking about the operating system, and some that might have a little more experience with things. Well, where you're not talking about Kanban and that falls under pull. That's some other stuff that will fit into like visual management and how we do it. We just don't want to bombard people because there's a lot of different things you can use in lean, but it doesn't always apply. But what we found is the ones on this list are universal, no matter what type of business you're in. Okay. But we have all the resources on all the different methods that you might see in lean, like something like total productive maintenance or things like that. Okay. So how do we do lean? How do we get started? And then this is something, it's been a labor of love trying to get me to organize this for a starter pack to give all these key documents based off our system to get people the capability to get going. But I will tell you, whether it's from using our resources or finding someone else that can help you, it's very beneficial to go through training of this. We really think certification's well worth everyone's time, whether it's through us or through another company or another service. It's just because there's a lot, but ideally, lean is something you can have the high level top executive. If the CEO is all in, that's ideal. You're going to have a lot of success, but you might say, well, I don't have that opportunity, or there's pushback. Start where you are, where your circle of influence is, and then you're going to get some results. And if you stay disciplined to it, you can get people on board. So what we do this is based off the MIT Sloan School model. And I've kind of adapted it out. You'll see different stuff on our member resources page and different things about what to get done in the first couple of years of lean, like how many rapid improvement events, where should you target? We have more info on that, but just high level, what's your true north? Where are you trying to go? Let's come up with a strategy for implementing lean, whether it's one value stream, one department, or if you're going all in with the organization. But what I say, you create this operating system, and it's very beneficial, this starter pack. I'm telling everybody, to where you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You're going to have a lot of this stuff. But again, some of the stuff you need to adapt to your specific situation. It's just going to be things, but you're not going to have to reinvent the wheel. Then what you do typically with a lean journey is you have a pilot. You take one value stream, not all the value streams at once. Don't go mapping every single step of everything in your. It's just pick an impactful area that supports your strategy where you can put a system in of lean. And some of the stuff we didn't go through all relates to creating flow in the process. So if it's a physical process, you might create these U-shaped cells or cellular layouts to get rid of all the motion. It depends on what you're actually doing, but all of these things we talked about in the operating system, will fit in. And you start there, you get some results, get some people excited, put the system in, and then you engage others in the organization. You do some rapid improvement events. You create a system for that. You get some more results. You're celebrating and sharing the results through visual management, right, Michelle? Like to show what we're doing. And then you sustain your gains. You build that momentum Michelle was talking about, the RAEs. Then you spread to the next area. You have to go slow to go fast. But I promise you, this journey will reap amazing benefits if you really go all in and use lean as your improvement strategy to help your business grow. Okay. And then I'll let Michelle jump in here to tell you a little bit about us, and then we can wrap this up.
Yeah, so us at Lean Jacks, we are a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to helping all of our members. And this is through effectively leveraging. Can you go back to the other slide?
I apologize. There's no mistake proofing on this aspect. No, it's not letting me go back. Oh, here we go.
So we effectively leverage lean thinking throughout your organization, or if you're an individual member, we have that too. For you as well. Delight current customers and attract new ones. That's one of the purposes in helping you guys with customer satisfaction. That's what this does. Positively impact productivity, profitability, and culture throughout the organization. And gaining sustainable competitive advantage in the marketplace. This definitely does that because it just naturally, organically happens when you implement lean. And then, of course, learning together and continuously improving. So those are some of our mission and our goals at Lean Jacks and helping our members.
Okay, I alluded to this earlier. So Michelle, what value do we get if we join Lean Jacks? Well, one of the things that I'll answer my own question.
Okay.
Is this lean thinking starter pack. And for those who have been active members have known, and we have a password for member resources on the site, you might be like, man, there's a lot of stuff on there. It's hard to get it all together. Like, just going to give up. Well, I've spent the time, one PDF for the key things. You get your templates, your instructions for value stream mapping, visual management, A3, like all this stuff in one place. So it's easy to navigate and you could share with others in your organization. And it gives some tips about where to get started and how to do this, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's a big thing with lean, where people are a little hesitant. Oh, there's a lot. But if you don't have to reinvent the wheel, you can keep it simple and keep, driving results, because the amount of results you can get from disciplined lean implementation is just unbelievable. You wouldn't believe it. So here we have best practices, some glossaries, instructions, checklists, some examples, and all the templates you'll need to get started.
So I think we're going to look at Lean Jacks training courses next. Yes, I'm not going to read all of these columns to you. You can pause, screenshot, rewind, whatever you need to do. But basically, with membership, you get access to all of our Lean training classes. So we have a cadence of classes that we have at different locations throughout Northeast Florida. We have in Duval and Clay, mostly right now, and some virtual options as well. There are a few prerequisites to some of the classes, and that's what this lean awareness is for. We'll have this up on our YouTube channel and our website as well. So that way, if you want to take one of our, for instance, standard work class, then you can just review this webinar to get you prepped and have an understanding of what lean is before you go into the more specific training courses. So that's what some of these are. But you can see, here and read that for yourself, all the details about each of those courses.
And as you can
And
see,
then we also, go ahead, sorry.
I just want to say I have offerings like right now, how we're doing it. One per quarter is really what we're going to be shooting for. To where so it's at least 4 times a year. It could be more, but that's the minimum that we're going to offer all these. And all I'll say is like what Michelle reiterate, to watch this video before certain ones, or if we do on-site awareness with you and coordinate, or if they, decide to attend like an introduction to lean, which will be like 2.5 hours. So it's like this, but like, a little more in depth, and there's going to be hands-on, activities kind of supporting this. But just realize it's a little different from how we do this one. So it's still, even if you viewed this, it'd be a beneficial training to go to. We like this order that Michelle and I have talked about, but we understand if you haven't done it, as long as you've seen some sort of awareness, people have some basic understanding, they're going to be just fine in these trainings. And then they can take them out of order. It's not really, they don't all lead into each other. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, that's okay. That's right. So we also have LeanJax events, which I think is the next slide, that we offer. Now, our webinars are right now open to the public, member or non-member alike. But these are available to our members with the events. So we have lean leadership meetings. That's where we go see other organizations that are doing lean, that have and doing it well. And so it's always good to go and learn by doing, like we talked about. So we have those. We always encourage, as part of our membership agreement, for our members to be a host for those. That's that collaborative piece that we are looking for with our members. And then you can see here we have for membership workshops available, value stream mapping facilitated by the lean team, and RIE, those rapid improvement events facilitated by us as well, and strategy deployment. And you can see there's different, some are included, some are for a discounted fee for the members. So take a look at this and screenshot it, or we'll also have this available.
Some updated information on our website as well. Yes. As we're doing this. So if there's any inconsistencies as we're trying, part of this is a kickoff for LeanJax for 24 to know what we're doing. And I will just say, this is a lot of value you'll get, very inexpensive to do this. And just realize, like, you're seeing, $1,500 a day. That's a very low rate for some extra. And that's just the thing, like, so you get Michelle and I and some others that we'll bring in are dedicated pit bull focused to get stuff implemented for you. Okay. So that's just it's just the time, and a lot of the time, like, we're spending more with prepping, to help make sure we're getting these. What we serve is we facilitate and guide the process with teams. Okay.
Yeah, so also we offer lean certification. So you'll see sometimes if it's like you're looking for a job or something, that's often a requirement, or a preferred certification that's listed in job applications. So this is a lean certification, lean facilitators, lean practitioner. All these are great. We offer these at a discounted rate for our members. And then if you're not a member, you can still take the class. We have that as well. So these are open for everyone. But some of the benefits really of being a member is you're going to be able to have learn by doing. You're going to have the coaching from us. You're going to get results. All of these things you're going to get from us. And this is some of our training certification series here. You can see the lean practitioner is a 4-month training cycle. So these are courses. These are very good, heavy, stout, digging into lean. So you're going to leave with a very thorough understanding on how to implement lean and what it all looks like, with this. So, and it's really very valuable to be able to, even if you're, just don't want it for like a job upskilling thing, it's still very valuable if you're implementing lean. In your everyday work organization and in the facilitator as well. So if you're going to be specifically facilitating rapid improvement events, internally in your organization, I highly recommend both of these. The facilitator really preps you on how to properly get in there and facilitate the rapid improvement events.
And this is something like with the lean practitioner and the facilitator that over the last few years, I've done this with other members and through First Coast Manufacturers Association, some of their members. And then I've also done this on site as the instructor for some Lean Jax members, and they get that discounted rate. Whereas if you send a certain amount of people, I'll do it in-house just for you. And then the thing that we're saying, I don't have to be saying I like Michelle joined us earlier in last year, and to where she's going to be able to support and serve as an instructor, and we're going to take on this together. So you just don't have to listen to me all the time, but realize the benefits of this is just, yes, well, why would I want to take this? Because we have the Lean Jax classes. It's more in depth, it's structured. You're going to have A3 projects, but you're going to have the coaching. And it's like you have a session, you have assignments, you implement, there's coaching, you get that support to make sure that, lean, like, can seem like a lot, but we'll provide the support to make sure you get people in your organization who can be really good and confident about this and teach it to others. The facilitator and like this, like, whereas you might be like, oh, Lean Six Sigma green belt, like what's the difference? The practitioner is essentially a green belt training, but instead we flip the Lean Six Sigma to whereas Lean Six Sigma green belt's like 80% Six Sigma and 20% lean. We've found the most useful ways to flip that. So it's probably 20% Six Sigma tools, 80% lean, because lean you can use every day. Six Sigma tools, it's like pick and choose certain things. You don't need to know everything. But with lean, it's very important to know all like the basics. And the facilitators, we're in talks with a couple of our member organizations to do that. For them, we're going to be probably offering both of these, in the second quarter this year or late first quarter, and we'll make sure everyone, can send people and has an idea of how we're going to do that. Okay.
So again, this has been recorded on January 12th. So these are our upcoming events. As of this recording, we do have a 6S Workplace Organization in-person class on January 31st, and that's going to be at the St. John's River State College Orange Park campus. And then we also have another in February, another Lean Leader webinar with Renee Chandler on February 16th on Ask Me Anything. This is going to be a great webinar. She was just really a guru with implementing continuous improvement and doing it in a law enforcement environment. So very unique. So in a government environment. So highly encourage you to sign up for these. The webinar is free, and the 6S Workplace Organization is free to our members, and then I think there's like $50 for non-members. So if you scan that QR code, it'll take you to our events page where you can see all of our current events on our website.
And going forward, we'll have all trainings recorded and to where members can have access to them. But just realize from me and Michelle's experience, on site is really beneficial to where, so it's not passive. Like, hopefully this wasn't passive, everybody watching this, but it's active learning. They like, I went to law, I'm a recovering lawyer or still a member of the Florida bar. The Socratic method. So it's a lot, people are going to be expected to use their brains and engage. And even if they get mad at us on the front end, I know they'll thank us by the time we get to the second or third class. Okay.
Yeah, and definitely the in-person classes are great. We do some lean games. Fun, it's interactive. So definitely, if you can come in person, that's the way to go, because that learn by doing really shows itself in our in-person trainings. So.
And I will say, of all our trainings, this has the least amount of silly pop culture references and different things. So like, if you like that kind of stuff, I find the dumber something is, the more likely people remember it. And that's the feedback I got. So we do that. I just want to say with Renee Chandler, Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, she was a point person for driving lean. And at the time, you know, about like 10 years ago or 10 to 15 years ago, when they were really on fire with this, sometimes in government, you have different people come in. So lean doesn't always sustain, unfortunately. But when they did it, they were known as the best lean implementation in the United States for law enforcement. So she's going to have some great input. So like, please, like if you're wondering how to do it in that where there's a lot of administrative stuff on the mix of like, you know, physical things, please like submit some questions for us about what you would, because she's very, very knowledgeable about this stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. And get your phones out and follow us on social media. So you can scan that QR code. That will go to all of our social media pages, and that's where we will have constant updates on our events. So definitely scan that and like our pages for us and comment and all the things with our social media.
And criticize us if you will. We're up for that too. Like, and if you have any ideas how we can provide more value to you, please let us know. Like that's why we're in business. We're a nonprofit organization. Our core goal is to make sure, you know, we can help companies and individuals improve their work atmosphere. And so like we definitely like want to make sure we're providing great value to everyone. Okay.
Yes. All right, so we are going to end with our summary of the topics that we discussed. Overview of lean thinking, lean culture with the 2 pillars. We went through the 5 lean principles and the lean operating system or playbook, and gave you some steps on, you know, an overview on what it could look like to implement this in your organization, and then what we have to offer you to help you with that. And with that all said, James, if we are with anything else, we want to thank you for attending our Lean Awareness webinar and hope you guys have a great weekend.
Yeah, and hope everybody that, you know, watches this, you know, this today, because I know what we would like is for other members to be able to, once we have this recording, we can share it to show it to some people. And also we'll have some edited different things, you know, that short bursts of what we talked about, and that'll be available. And if you have any questions, whether you're a current member or you're an individual that the company might not be all in, but you want to do this, or if you're a company that's interested in joining, please like explore our website, the social media, as Michelle said, and feel free to reach out by phone or email to Michelle or I. We'd be happy to talk to you.
Yes. All right. Well, if we have nothing else, thank you for attending, and contact us if you have any questions or need any help. All right, are we done?
Let me stop the recording.